All right. Hello, everyone, and thank you for joining us for the Data Architecture Virtual Group meeting for September 2018. My name is Kenny Neal, and along with my partner, Rob Canzaneri, I'm the co-leader of this virtual group. Today, we're very happy to have Rob Sewell to talk to us about administering SQL Server with PowerShell DBA Tools. Our upcoming meetings, we've got more PowerShell, Pester the Tester with Rob Kane in October. And we've got temporal tables with Tim Mitchell in December, and I think we're trying to work out a second October meeting. So check out our website there, dataarc.pass.org, for anything that we post additionally, or if you're on our mailing list, just keep an eye out on your email. I'll send an email as soon as we lock down any details. We are happy to continue to be sponsored by Nutanix. They're going on another year with us. Please pay them a visit and thank them for sponsoring the virtual group. We're also happy to have HVR Software as a new sponsor. So please check them out as well, hvr-software.com. Coming up in November, the PASS Summit in Seattle is going to be November 6th through 9th. And remember to register by the 22nd of this month to get the best possible price. And if you are planning on attending the PASS Summit, you can use that discount code right there on your screen to save $150 off your registration. Some upcoming virtual group webinars. There are several in just about every language and covering every technology you could think of. So just go check that out, anything at pass.org for a complete list. But here's some of the upcoming ones. Some upcoming SQL Saturdays. SQL Saturdays, if you're not familiar, are like little mini PASS Summits. A free day of training. Usually the only thing you have to pay for is lunch. They're really great. And I've gone through that about as quickly as I could. So with that, I'll turn it over to Rob because I know he's got a lot to get through. Here you go, Rob. Thank you very much.
Hello. Thank you very much indeed, Kenny. So let's go. Hello, everybody, and welcome. Thank you for choosing to spend your time, whether it's lunchtime or evening time, with me, just to go through some things about DBA Tools with a clicker that doesn't work. Good work, Rob. There we go. So who am I and why am I? There we go. Who am I and why am I here sat in a hotel room in the north of England talking to you about PowerShell and SQL Server? So my name's Rob. Once upon a time I was production DBA. Nowadays I'm more of an automator. I like to make things go. I like to enable continuous integration and development, and that's something that you can very easily do with PowerShell. I've been working with PowerShell for many years now. I also have a terrible cough, so please excuse me. Interesting fact, I've got a big beard, so everybody notices it, but also I fly a drone. I'm lucky that I am involved in both the SQL and the PowerShell communities. So I've spoken at SQL Saturdays and at SQL Relay, SQL Bits, and at Summit. And on Summit this year, you can spend a whole day with me learning how to build professional and proficient PowerShell modules if you wish, and I'll also be doing a session on DBA checks. But I've also spoken at the PowerShell conference in Europe and in Asia, and at what they call PowerShell Saturdays or Mondays, PS days around the world. And if that wasn't enough, I then like to organize things. So I helped organize the SQL Southwest user group and SQL Saturday Exeter. I used to organize the PowerShell virtual group, but Chrissy and I are trying to revamp the DevOps virtual group and PowerShell Europe conference. And I've created DBA reports and DBA checks, and I am always talking about DBA tools. And because I'm always talking about these things, Microsoft made me an MVP, so that was very kind of them. This is how to get in touch with me. Feel free to use that whenever you like. The most important thing to notice here is that my website is SQLDBA with beard.com, whereas my Twitter is merely, if that'll work, SQLDBA with beard. And that's because Twitter's got a 15-character limit. So when I first changed my handle, I suddenly became SQLDBA with a bear, which was kind of funny, but I figured perhaps it would be better to change that. But feel free to get in touch with me. I will promise to answer your question. I will also promise that because I get swamped with stuff, I will forget it, and you are entirely welcome to poke me and say, hey, I sent you a link or an email or an IM or something last week and you haven't answered. Could you mind having a look? That's perfectly fine. So, DBA Tools. Without any doubt, this person, Digital Home, I don't know who they are, has put it absolutely into context. We've just tried to make it easy for you to use PowerShell with SQL Server. Whereas a few years ago, you would have had to add a type and create objects and learn about methods and work out how to make all these things work together. Hopefully now, many of these things you'll see will be much simpler because we've made it into easy. So all you have to worry about is, what is it that I want to do with my SQL Server? There's a brand new, only this week released update to all the documentation because, hey, we're coders. We really like writing stuff, except maybe the documentation isn't quite as good as it could have been. And it's really hard to keep up with because we have over 100 contributors to this open source module, and things change, new commands come through, and whilst we make sure they all have basic documentation, making sure that all of that was available on the website as well as within PowerShell was not so easy. But we've got a brand new docs.dbatools.io, so please go have a look at that, see what it's like. And it's an open source module, so when you find things that are wrong, when you find things that don't work as you expect, when you find things that you're missing and you'd like to improve, please let us know. Come into the GitHub, raise an issue. An issue doesn't necessarily mean that something's wrong. An issue can mean, oh, I'd like an extra feature, or hey, have you thought about doing that? Or we appear to be missing this. But also you can go to the SQL Server Community Slack channel and you can join in the DBA Tools channel and go and talk to somebody in there. There are people in there pretty much 24 hours a day. Links for those are all on the slides. If you want to find the slides or the demos, any of the content that I share, you can go to my GitHub, which is github/SQLDBA with a beard. And on there, you'll find a presentations repository pinned to the top. And if you go to any of the years, but this particular one is for 2018 and is the user group DBA Tools presentation. So DBA Tools, it's a PowerShell module. So what do we need? As a minimum, on your client, we've coded it for PowerShell version 3. If you still have to use PowerShell version 3 on your client, then I'm sorry, it really would be better if you could persuade people to upgrade to PowerShell version 5.1, because then you're going to take all of the extra benefits. But we've always tried to code DBA Tools for version 3. And we used to say SQL Server Management Studio and the SMO, but Microsoft gave us the permission to embed those within DBA Tools. So we no longer require that on the client. The client in this scenario is the machine that you're doing to do your work, your DBA Tools machine, where Management Studio is installed. At a server level, because DBA Tools started as a migration project, we support from SQL Server 2000 all the way to whatever comes next. And you do not need on the server to have PowerShell installed, as long as you're only using the DBA Tools commands that are just doing pure SQL work. If you need to be doing using any of the DBA Tools commands that are interacting with the Windows operating system, so things to do with, say, Disk Space is a good example, then you're going to need to have remote PowerShell enabled and PowerShell installed on those boxes. So as I said, we support from SQL Server 2000 to whatever comes next. We support from Express to Enterprise Edition, clustered, standalone instances, Windows SQL authentication, default, named, multiple instances. And when you find something that you think we've missed, let us know in GitHub. You'll notice that this is the SQL Server that is not in the cloud. So this is not Azure SQL compatible. There are some things that we can work alongside with Azure, so you can back up to remote URI, for example, but this is not necessarily for connecting to the Azure SQL database. Oh, multiple instances on one server. I said that, Rob. Installation. Installation is easy, and I want to make sure that you understand that this is not just how you install DBA tools. This is how you install any additional functionality that you wish to have with PowerShell. So with the advent of PowerShell Core, which uses .NET Core and is available cross-platform, so it will work on Mac and Linux and Windows, then the core is also going to be a smaller subset of the modules that are available. And it makes sense because the modules that us as data professionals are going to want to have installed with our PowerShell to interact with the services we use are going to be different from the modules that, say, an Exchange admin is going to need to use for interacting with their systems. And it's going to be different from what an Active Directory admin is going to use, or a VM admin. All of these things are going to require you to go and install the modules. So think of it like a NuGet repository. Now I said .NET Core and I said cross-platform, but unfortunately right now DBA Tools isn't quite there because the SMO that works cross-platform isn't quite there and available to us. But hopefully as soon as that becomes available, then DBA Tools will indeed be cross-platform as well. So we go install -module DBA Tools. That needs to run as an administrative process. So not only do you need to be running as an administrative account on the machine, but you also need to right-click and run PowerShell as administrator. And that's because it will then install the module into C program files, Windows PowerShell modules. And that will then be available for all users of that machine. So if you are not able to do that, or if you only want to make DBA Tools available for yourself, please don't do that. Share it around with everybody, but some people choose to. Then you just add a -scope current user on. That means you don't need to be running as an admin. You don't need any administrative processes on the machine you're installing it. And it will install it in your user profile, documents, Windows PowerShell modules. And then it will only be available to yourself. Now that's an important point to make. It will only be available to the account whose user profile it's in, which makes perfect sense. So if you want to use DBA Tools with another remote machine, whether you're using it with VSTS, which is now called Azure DevOps, or whether you're using it within an agent job, if you only install it for your own user account, it's not going to be available to that system. If you need to install in a different way, if you wish to take the GitHub repository and install it, if you have a machine where you're not allowed to connect it to the internet, there are other methods of installing DBA Tools, and you'll find those at those links. Help. Again, I'm going to say this is not just to do with DBA Tools. This is how you get help for all of your PowerShell commands. So as you start to work with PowerShell and get to learn how to use it, get help should be one of the first 3 commands that you know how to use, because it's going to enable you to be able to help yourself. So if I want to work out how to use start DBA migration, I just use get-help, start DBA migration, the name of the command, and put a -detailed flag on, which will give me all of the information about the help. DBA Tools is really good at making sure we have good help available to you at the command line. There are other ways, as we said, we have a new documentation pages, which I need to update my links for. And some commands have some videos, so you can jump onto DBAtools.io/YouTube and watch some videos of some of the commands in use. On the subject of help, if at any point you have a question or a comment or want to ask, suggest what about during this presentation, stick it in the questions and Kenny will jump in and we can go through and see what happens. Let's have some fun. Let's learn some things that are important to what you want to know. So, I'm sure you all love spending a whole hour watching PowerPoint presentations and making sure that you really see those bullet points when you're watching presenters, but buckle up, let's have some demos. So, let's have some demos on the remote machine and not on the machine that you're working on. So this is going to show you what we've got, what we have available to us here. So we're looking at an availability group, a SQL 0, SQL 1. We've got SQL on Linux. We've got some containers. And if we look at these containers, you can see that they're all different versions of SQL. Thanks to my friend Andrew Pusky, DBA from the cold, who's made these Docker containers available with images of SQL back to 2012, so that you can very quickly and easily spin up images of those versions of SQL and do presentations or work alongside. I've used it to troubleshoot issues with systems where there hasn't been a test environment with that particular version on. And we've got a mirrored database on a separate instance as well. So this is how I make sure that I don't look like an idiot, because I have been known to press F5 when I've been doing my PowerShell, and that will run the entire script, and that kind of spoils the surprises. So if you ever want to make sure that you don't run an entire script, just put yourself a little return block at the top. You put a message on if you want to take the mickey out of yourself, but put a return on, then it won't actually run. So remember I said one of the first 3 commands that you needed to learn for PowerShell was get help, and then we need a command name. But that's not really much use if we don't know what the command is. So one of the things you can do is use the PowerShell command, get command, and we'll filter it just to the module DBA tool. Oh, crikey, did you see that? Let's do that again. Let's, all the way through. So here's the thing. Right now, oops, let's put it down there. Well done, Rob. If we look at which version of DBA Tools we're using, which is 9.418, it says there are 593 commands. I think I might be slightly exaggerating, but there are so many commands in this module that I don't know how many there are. And also, Chrissy doesn't know how many there are or what they do. Can we remember all of the names? So when this came up a little while ago, one of the things we did was wrote a command to help find commands. I'm just stopping a moment just to check some of these questions. Yes, I've started. Kenny, can you confirm that I've not been speaking to myself for the last 20 minutes?
I can hear you just fine. I think that came in right before we started.
Oh, that's good. That's all right then. We've got a Pester question. I could spend 3 days talking about Pester. All of our Pester checks for DBA Tools are part of our continuous integration, and I personally use Pester an awful lot with DBA Tools, and customized, and also DBA checks itself is entirely Pester, mainly based on DBA Tools. Does it allow migrating a whole database to another server which has a lower version? So, an excellent question. Here's the thing. You cannot take a backup of a database and restore it to a lower version. So you're not going to be able to move the databases using backup and restore. And you are going to have to perform a whole lot of painful work if you want to move the databases from a server for a higher version to a lower version. But assuming that you haven't switched any flags on the higher version, you would be able to move things like, say, logins or agent jobs from a higher version to a lower version. Will the presentation slide deck? Please visit my GitHub for the slide deck. Is the dashboard you're looking at Power BI? No, I wasn't showing any Power BI. This, if you mean this one, this is SQL Operations Studio. It's the new cross-platform tool for connecting to SQL. Let's see, what else we've got? Is it the same for running DBA Tools PS Console rather than Visual Studio? So as long as you are using PowerShell.exe, then DBA Tools is going to give you the same responses, and whichever tool you use is up to you. I generally go for Visual Studio Code because this is where all of the development for PowerShell is happening. PowerShell ISE development has stopped, so we're moving forward. DBA Tools does not work with Azure SQL Database. Oh dear. Do we allow this export? Yeah, we'll come to some more of those in a moment, but feel free to keep firing them in, and if anything really exciting comes up, Kenny's going to jump in and interrupt us. So we need to find the command. So if I want to find the command, I use the find-dba command, and I can add a tag of backup. And what that's going to do is show me the command name and the synopsis that have the word backup in them. So I can look at backups, I can look at restores. You see all of these different commands for restores, or anything to do with migration. We can see all of those. Maybe I want to see if DBA Tools works with an agent. Yep, we've got lots of commands that work with agent. Or I can find some sort of magic jumping, find some sort of pattern for user. Let's see what we can do with anything to do with user. There's all sorts of commands we can use here. So we always use get help. So if we wanted to look at linked server connections, and we can do a get help, we can do a full, and what we can see, if I can just move those questions out of the way, is we have some examples. Please always write your PowerShell commands with many examples. We always represent who our authors are and give them links back to their own blogs. You get the information about the parameters and a synopsis and a description that gives you some idea of what's going on. To be honest, these ones could be a little better, but you can see what is happening. So here's a trick. I love Out Grid View, and the beauty with Out Grid View is you can do your find DBA command. You can then put in a pass through and then pipe that through to your get help. So this is a great way of enabling people who are using your commands to be able to make a choice for themselves. When we're using Visual Studio Code, Out Grid View always jumps up behind. But the beauty with this is you can use this filter at the top, and it will filter for anything that's inside the Out Grid View. I've used it to find my birthday in the XML inside the persons table in AdventureWorks, just because it's easier than trying to play with XML. And once we press OK, then that passes through, hence the name, to get help, and we can get all of our help about our linked servers. So you can use that to find and see what's going on, get the commands that you want. So let's start looking at some linked servers. So what linked servers do we have on SQL 0? So we've got some linked servers to all of our containers using a remote user of SA, so that's absolutely fine. So let's make sure that they're all working correctly. There we go. So now we've just tested our link servers connecting to 4 different SQL instances, running 4 different versions, are all able to connect. We've got a connectivity true, we've got a result of success. You can see how we can quickly test something from the command line or build in some logic if we wanted to do some scripting. So let's have a check on SQL 0. Sorry, SQL 1. Oh, now if you remember, I said that SQL 0 and SQL 1 are AGs. If we wanted to have a look in here, you can see we've got an availability group. So if we failed over from SQL 0 to SQL 1 and we didn't have our link servers on SQL 1, then bad things are going to happen. So we probably need to do something about that. So let's have a look at these link servers on, we'll look at one of the link servers on SQL 0. So it's going to that name, bid, Docker host, and the port number. We've got a remote user of SA. So one thing you can do with DBA Tools, so don't think about these things as just for link servers, but actually for any object that we've got, we can use export DBA script. And what that's going to do is that's going to create us the T-SQL for that particular object that we've created. So in this scenario, we've actually created ourselves a link server export, but it could be any object. So your agent jobs, your tables, your databases, your servers, those can all come through. And as you can see, now we've got our T-SQL, so we could run that because we've got, like, it says remote password. Oh no, so we don't get the password out from that way. So it's a really useful tool. It enables us to get the T-SQL for all of these objects, but for this moment when we can't actually do anything. So if you remember, I said earlier that DBA Tools started life as a migration tool. So it enables you to take everything from one instance and move it to another instance. So there's a great video on the front page of DBA Tools, and there's many demonstrations of migrating an entire instance, all the databases and credentials and jobs and schedules, and et cetera, all of the things that you can possibly think of from one instance to another. But life's not quite like that. We always end up in a scenario where we need to be able to do these things one by one, piecemeal. Maybe we're going to prepare ourselves for a migration and we want to move everything except the databases over, or maybe we want to clear out some of those old agent jobs, or hopefully maybe these link servers that use SA to do the connection because it's easier. If you look for the copy commands will enable you to move individual things around. So in this scenario, we're talking about an availability group. And we're talking about an availability group where one of the replicas does not have something, in this case link servers, could be jobs, could be credentials, could be logins, that is going to need if we have failover. If we want high availability, we want the capability to fail over from one replica to another and still have the same experience, we need to make sure all of these bits and bobs are in the right place. These copy commands are going to enable you to do that. You could schedule a job, an SQL agent job, to run these commands and sync all of these things around as and when you need to. So we can just run copy DBA linked server, and it goes, ta-da, we've done it. So if we look at SQL 1, then now we have our 4 link servers, and we can even make sure that we can test them. So we can test them, we can make sure that everything is as we expected. Brilliantly, I've lost my questions pane. So I can't see now if there are any questions. So Kenny, I am completely reliant on you now.
One that just came in that said, can you use DBA Tools to migrate SQL reporting services?
No, is the short answer. What you would use is the report server tools module from that's on GitHub. It's from the report server reporting service team. If you have a look at Claudio Silva's blog post, I believe he's got some good information about how to export and import reports from that way. Is there anything else? I found it.
Here's one more, Rob. If you
Yep.
want to migrate to a server, but the servers can't see each other, does it allow you to perform a task in 2 steps, like first scripting the data and info, and then copying it manually over to the? So I think it's reading like, can you basically script out everything for the migration instead of doing a straight copy?
Oh, so the short answer is yes. I have not got the demo for that because I know Chrissy wants to be the first one to show it off, and she's showing it off the day after tomorrow at SQL Glasgow. But there is a command called export DBA instance which would enable you to do that. It's going to take you a little bit of work, as you can imagine. Or you could gather together the things that you need from using those export scripts to get the objects you need, and then script them into T-SQL and move them over if you want to. Okay, so let's have a look at some builds. So if we just run that for a moment, and while it's running, I'll open it up for you. So we're using the get DBA build reference command, and we're just going through our instances. Our containers are separate because we need a SQL credential for those, and then we're grabbing them all together. And as you can see, this enables you to see what your estate looks like. So very quickly, I can see the 2017 boxes. They're on RTM, which is the latest. Oh, I've got a 2016 SP1, which hasn't got a latest flag. See which CU level we're at, which KB level we're at, and how long this particular version is supported until. And then you've got whether we're matching exactly or not. And these are the sort of commands that we use within DBA checks to make sure that you can check your entire estate and grab the information to see whether it's still supported by Microsoft or not. And of course, we need to make sure that we check that the older versions, which I don't have a build, we've still got some information about those, but also to show that you can go backwards. So the first way we put the instance in and got our information about it, and this way we've just, so this is our build number. What version is this? When is it supported until? So you can help you to answer those questions from the project manager type people, compliance, make sure that everything is as you expected.
Hey Rob, somebody just asked, is there a check like this for the OS? I guess to check patch levels on the OS.
Excellent question. That's not one that we have in DBA Tools, and in fact it's not one that we've got in DBA checks. So Cecil, if you could be an absolute diamond and raise me an issue on the DBA checks GitHub, that will remind me to try and write a check for that as well. Excellent. So everybody backs up all of their databases, don't they? Now, don't lie. I know that some of you do because you're good and dutiful DBAs and you're spending your spare time listening to me talk about how to do stuff. But I also know that I go to places where we don't have that. And if you walk in somewhere and they go, well, we haven't got any backups, and you think, oh, panic, then we can just do this. As you can see, we're backing up to our network drive, and we have just said, get DBA data space on this particular instance. I've excluded the system DBs for a reason you'll see in a minute. Brilliant. If you remember, Kenny, I said earlier that there was a reason why my demos were failing. I've just spotted the reason. And what we'll get then, we're going to exclude the databases that are in our availability group. And then we're going to use backup DBA database. And to make sure that a later demo works, we're going to use a type of full. And we'll just do that one more time. So as you can see, we're going to back up these databases nice, simply and quickly. We've got all of the databases from an instance, and we are backing them up to our share. There we go. And they're all there. Now, how quick do we back up? So this is a question I've been asked before. You know, how long does it take to do our backups? Well, we can get the information like, as you can see, for one database, the Wide World Importers database, you can see our average duration, how big our database is, what our average throughput was, how many times we backed it up, the last time it was backed up, and the earliest time it was backed up. And you can get how quick your backup speeds are going as reported by SQL. So as with all things, we can do OGV, which is shorthand for out grid view. And that enables us to see that we get all of this information about all of the databases on there. And that's a good way of enabling you to be able to see what's going on. And you know, they say never type in demos. So I'm obviously going to type in my demo. And the beauty of using PowerShell is that we've got an object. So if you've got an object, you can, we're DBAs in general, we can put it into a database. So we've got write DBA data table. We'll go SQL instance. Let's pick SQL 0. We'll pick the database temp DB because we want to keep it. Oh no, because it's a demo. Okay. We're going to have a table of throughput, and we're even going to spell it properly. And we're going to have the magic one of, move this out of the way, auto create table. So if the table doesn't exist, please create it and make everything magical for me. When we come back to here, we're in SQL 0. We can look in our temp DB, find our tables. There we go, DBO throughput. We'll do a quick select from there. And there's your information. So at any point where you want to get some of this amazing information that you can gather with DBA tools and put it into a database, this is how you can do it. So it's very simple to grab that object from measure DBA backup throughput in this example and pipe it through to write DBA data table and get all that information there. So obviously, you know, getting all of that good information is really important, but oh my goodness gracious me, alert, 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 Beard widget is broken. Crikey, we better make sure we get onto this quickly, haven't we? So a disaster has befallen us. As you can imagine, even though I'm sat in a hotel room, imagine that SQL 0 is broken, the folks are rushing around and shouting, you know, the ones spaghetti hair waving their arms around, have you finished it yet, have you finished it yet, have you finished it yet? If you get people like that from the business who are standing around getting in the way of you fixing it, you turn around to them and you say, would you like to help me get this fixed quicker? And they say, yes, 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 costing us $1 billion trillion a second. And you say, excellent, I'd like a black coffee, please. I do it, it works. Anyway, I digress. Beard widget is broken. So let's have a look at the databases that are on SQL 1. Okay, so we haven't got all of the databases, and if we went and had a quick look at what was on SQL 0 before it broke, roll with me here. This is a demo. So we had all of those databases which are now no longer available. So I think the best bet just to get things up and running would be to put it into availability group and we wouldn't have to worry about this. But for example, maybe we just want to restore all of these databases back onto SQL 1. So have we got enough space on the destination to make sure that everything is there? Now, obviously, if SQL 0 was broken, I wouldn't be able to show you the databases that are on there, and I wouldn't be able to run this command. But this command is going to get me the name of all the databases that aren't already in the availability group, because that would break the demo. And then we're going to measure the disk space requirement for those databases from SQL 0 to SQL 1. So think of this, perhaps we're talking about a disaster. Maybe if you're planning a migration, or if you're looking at moving, consolidating things into one particular onto one instance, you're trying to reduce the number of instances, or you're upgrading your versions, then we can have a look and you see what we need is for our 16 files, we need 1,000, I can't do that in megabytes, let's have a look at it in gigabytes. We need 1.6 gigabytes of space because we're massive. These are all of these databases. And then we can use get DBA Disk Space. So get DBA Disk Space is going to go to our instance. This is one of our Windows level commands, and it's going to grab all of the disks that are there, and it's going to tell us how much space we have free. So luckily, I've got more than enough space free. And the other thing I can do is look at how big my backups are. Let's do that the right way, Rob. Here we go. And see what my backups are by grabbing the sizes of those backups from this network backup path. And I can even do it just for one database, and that'll show you that you get a whole load of information. So you remember up here, we just did a measure, but actually here you can see that we've got all of these databases, destination file size, because it doesn't exist yet. File locations only on the source. This is the name. This is how big this file is. And the same for the LDF. So you can see what the different size is. You can see what each of those files are going to be. So now that we've done all of that work, let's restore all our databases back onto SQL 1. So if you noticed earlier when I did another backup, that's because my backup DBA database had said, you did a backup earlier when you were testing your demo, Rob, and now I'm going to do you a diff because it's the same day. But to show you that everything was happening, I deleted those full backups. So here we are, we're restoring our database. And as you can see, we get out a whole load of information about these particular databases. We get the file that we've used, how big the backup was, how compressed it was, name, the owner, how long it took to restore, the files we did, and also the T-SQL scripts that we used, or we would have used, that we could use to restore this database from this particular file. So now we can have a look at SQL 1. We have all of our databases back again. Because we're good and dutiful DBAs, we'd better make sure that we back these ones up as well. So we're just going to run that same command again and just back those databases back up to our network share so that we can see that we've got everything safe in case another disaster befalls us. There we go. And we've just sent an email. It's okay. We've fixed it. Okay. So, foolish question. There's no such thing as a foolish question, Thomas. All questions are absolutely perfect. I'm trying to update my DBA Tools version from 9.150. I've tried update module and update DBA Tools with no luck. Any idea? One thing you could do is remove your modules folder. So sorry, not your modules folder, your DBA Tools folder from C Program Files, Windows PowerShell modules DBA Tools, and then run an install DBA Tools, say install module DBA Tools, and start through again. Otherwise, dive into the Slack channel and somebody will be able to help you to debug that. What ports are required? For example, 14.3.3 for SQL. However, get DBA Disk Space failed for me, failed to connect. So that is because you need to have PowerShell remoting enabled on the server that you're trying to connect to, Jeff. There is a, I believe, let's see if we can find it. Why not? Never type in demos, but sometimes it's fun. Slash, let's see if it's remoting. DBAtools.io/remoting, page not found. Okay, we'll have one more go. and if not, I will find the link and tweet it out. Yes, I will. I will find the link for you, Jeff, on PowerShell remoting and tweet that one out. What is the command to check my current version of DBA Tools? Okay, so that's a very simple one. For any of your commands, if we do a get-module, DBA Tools, we hit enter, you can see this is the version of DBA Tools that I am currently using in this session. If we add a list available, then this is all of the DBA Tools versions that are available on my machine to my user. So I have these ones saved in my user directory. And if I had some in my Windows PowerShell, program files, Windows PowerShell modules folder, then they would also turn up in there. So that's how you can see what you've got and what is available to you. So hands up, everybody. Oh, we can't do this, I can't see you. But how often do you test your backups? Okay, like honestly, testing your backup is so easy. Let's just show you how easy it is, even if we've only got one thing. So what we're going to do here is we're going to test the last backup that we've taken on SQL 0. And what you're going to see is that I've got the wrong link in there, SQL 1. So what you're going to see in a second is that we are going to be restoring the databases onto this instance, which, there we go. So we've got a test restore, AdventureWorks 2017. As you see, we've already got an AdventureWorks 2017 MDF file. So that database already exists on this instance on this particular drive, but we can still do our test restore because we rename the files as well as the database. And there you can see we've got DBCC check DB going through. So we are now restoring the actual files that we've just backed up our instance from after the disaster befell us. We're running a DBCC check DB, and then we're dropping those temporary databases that we created. So even if you only have one instance in your world, it is completely possible to test all of your backups and know for absolute certain that these particular backups that we have just taken can be restored and are useful for us. If we come back and have a look, you can see we've got some information about the source server and the test server. I did it on just one instance because I think it's important to show that you can do it even with one instance. But you can choose the backups from one source server, your production server, say, and then you can test them on your machine that you use with SQL installed just to test your backups. Check the database name. Did the file exist? How big was it? Did we successfully restore? Did we successfully run a DBCC result? And the start, end, and elapsed times for those things. Now, you'll also notice that for master, we were able to restore it, but we're not able to do a DBCC check DB. Because no matter what you do, if you restore a master database on another, on an instance, under another name, you can't DBCC check DB, just won't work. But now you can check all of your backups. If you have large databases, will this take a lot of time and resources? And if they're all stored on a network, will it flood your network with traffic? Yes, it will. Those are all things you have to do. Don't go and do this on your live production environment without understanding the impact. Definitely don't do it saying because Rob said so, because I don't know what the effect is going to be in your environment. You need to work out what's going on there. Okay. So what else have we got? Let's keep going. Agent jobs. So our next thing is, let's have a look at some agent jobs. Get DBA agent job, SQL 0. It's going to give us the information that we're kind of used to seeing from Activity Monitor. We can look at our categories. And don't forget, in general, if we have these things as gets and they're as copies, these are all the sort of things that you can copy across from instance to instance. So we can pull out our job steps, see what our job step was. We've even got some IntelliSense. So if we do, what am I doing here? Let's do that, job. And then you're not going to work. Excellent. So sometimes when my network's not completely overloaded, I can get the database names, the job names from there. But today it's not going to play. So let's have a look at all of the information about our full backups for our database. So as you can imagine, we're just looking at the job steps. This is an Hologram job step. And those of you who are used to using Hologram's scripts to back up and maintain your instances will be fully aware of what this looks like. So you can see you can grab all of the information about that. And we can even see which file that we are using for our output. So you can see this is our remote output file. And for many, many, many of these that you use, you will be able to do that and open the file. However, we can't do it for Hologram because he puts tokens in his path names and we can't convert we don't convert those perhaps. So let's have a look at this. Let's do it this way. So we can look at our database backup folder, which is the location for our output file that we had up here. There it is. And then we can sort it by the last write time and grab the latest one. And there is our output file for the last time we ran Hologram on this particular instance. Yep, there we go. So let's have a look at our agent logs. So in our agent log, it's just a get. We can get our history. I'm not going to do that one. I'm going to do this one. If your agent job history is very big, if your MSDB is not purged sufficiently and you have many, many, many rows in those tables, then that command is going to take a long time to run because it is going to grab all of that information and pull it all out available for you. So we said Hologram. Hopefully everybody uses Hologram scripts. You can find more information about them there. Let's have a look at Hologram on a, well, we haven't got any jobs on our Linux box. Crikey, whoever the DBA is here needs to be shot. He's not backing anything up. So how easy is it to install Hologram onto any instance? We'll do it onto a Linux instance. You can do it like this. This is called splatting. So what we could do is install DBA maintenance solution, and we could add in a database, a backup location, a cleanup time, and output file directory. And gradually this is going to go further and further off the screen, and you're not going to be able to see what's going on. And it'll be difficult to find the particular parameter you want to change. So you can splat that. That's what it's called. We've put it into a hash table, but this makes it nice and easy. If I want to do the same thing for a different instance, I can quickly see I just need to change this bit here. So let's install. So we're going to install Hologram onto a Linux box and done. There we go. And to prove it's done, we'll have a look at the jobs. There are our jobs. Now we've got all of our Hologram jobs. If you want to run the jobs, remember, everything is an object. So when we looked at one particular agent job, if we then, with any PowerShell at all, when you want to explore it and you're learning, take the command that you've just run, put it into a variable. Let's call the variable beard, because you can call it anything you like. Now, your variable is just going to have the information about the return from that command. but you can now do GM, because you're at the command line, stands for get member. And you can see all of the methods and all of the properties that are available to you. Now, if you can never remember if it's state or status and you want to see what you've got, you can use the dreaded, but not in this scenario, select star. So we can do a select star and get the output of all of the properties that we've got for on this object. But one of the methods was start. So we can get our agent and then we can start it. And if we look at this here, you'll see that one of our jobs is executing. So that's all good. And if we have a look at our history, you can see that it hasn't finished yet because we haven't written to our history. There we go. And that just shows you that DBA Tools works against Linux running on SQL because SQL is SQL on Linux. It doesn't matter. It's not bothered. When was this database backed up? I can tell you for certain that the Linux SQL databases were backed up at 2315, but also at 1855 on the 12th. So we can quickly see what's going. If we only wanted to see when the last time, oh no, that's the other command, that's the restore. Anyway, let's have a look at it. Last time the SQL 1 was restored. If you remember, we had a disaster and we had to restore all of our databases. So, but we also did our test restores. So it's even going to show these test restores that have gone through. It's going to show the times that those happened. Most of the time, a lot of organizations I go to now are beginning to stop having the capability for user accounts to access confidential information. And sometimes that confidential information is the backup files, which kind of makes sense because you don't want the DBA to run away with your backup files or leave them open for people. You want to lock down those shares and make sure they're very, very carefully audited and that nobody's able to access them. But SQL needs to be able to access them. Or maybe if you're running SSIS packages, the accounts need to be able to access certain file shares. So from the perspective of the account that's running SQL 0, I'm going to see whether I can get access to my network share. And it comes back with true, false. Nice, quick, easy command. You want to work with files, even Linux files. Get DBA file. So that's going to grab us it's going to enable us to explore the default data drive for, as you can see, in this case, our Linux box. So, but we're not just bound to the data file. We can go and have a look and see that those Ola jobs did actually create backups in this directory. And even better, without being able to access that folder, I can create a folder, without being able to access that path, I can create a folder on that particular instance, new DBA directory. So let's do this. We've got some databases. Here's all the information we've got about our databases. Let's say that you're completely bonkers and you want to be able to remove all of your databases. There we go. That's how quickly and easy it is you can do that. PowerShell is very, very powerful. And sometimes you need to be really, really careful that you know what you're doing. So check 3 times before you press go. So now we have no databases. But remember, we used Hologram to back up our databases. So we can do our restore DBA database. We can point it at the root of our Hologram folder location. And it's going to go through and it's going to work out how to get these databases restored back to the latest date. And normally when we're doing this, we get asked the question, we'll let that finish first. Can we stop at a certain point in time? And the answer is, of course, yes. He's taking a little bit longer to restore than normal. Are there any more questions? Again, I can't see the question pane, Kenny.
One that I was about to ask, for credential and SQL credential, is there a way to pass in another domain login or password?
Absolutely. Let me just show you the flags on here. There, we finished. So we do have a restore time, a whole set number of different flags that we can use on this command. So how do I push in the credentials for another domain? You can do it like that. And then you can make use of that credential. Now, there are going to be scenarios where you're not able to use that. So you wherever the command is happening, will need to be able to see those domain controllers to be able to authenticate. But that's going to get you some of the way there. Does that answer your question, Kenny?
I think so.
Excellent. Okay. Now here's the thing. It's 8 o'clock. I'm going to keep going until Kenny tells me I've got to stop, because we've got a whole load of code there. But you can go and grab this code and go and see what's going on, because some of that's kind of fun. But this is one of my favorite ones. Oh dear grief. This is what happens when you do a rename. Let's have a look at some logins. So on SQL 1, I do not have a login called the beard. You see, there's no login called the beard. So if I went here and tried to connect to SQL 1 and used SQL authentication, the beard, you all know the rules about SQL authenticated accounts, don't you? The username must equal the password. Please remember, this is a joke. Login failed for user the beard. So imagine this scenario, which I imagine a lot of you have had, is all of a sudden, here is a SQL instance. This SQL instance is broken. DBA, please can you fix it? You've never seen it before. You try and log on. You can't log on. You can get onto the box, but you can't log on to SQL. How are you going to get yourself back into this SQL instance? Sure, you go and Google and you know that you've got to start this instance in single user mode, and then you can use SQL command and you can connect on, but it started in single user mode and some application actually jumped on the machine and locked it and you couldn't get on. All of these sort of things. Or maybe nobody knows. Mary, who knew the SA password, left 5 years ago and nobody wrote it down. It's not in the password safe. Whatever the scenario is, sometimes you need to be able to get back into your SQL instance. And here we go. This is going to say, hang on a minute. If I do this, this instance is going to restart. Are you happy with that? Yes, thank you, I am. And then it's going to say, please enter a new password for the beard. So it's noticed that I've chosen a SQL login, and I can't type passwords and talk at the same time, even if I'm just typing the beard. So we need to enter ourselves a new password. We get one go at doing it. That is something to do with me running remotely. It is actually working. I'm not sure why I get that error. But now we're just going to wait for SQL Server to stop. We're going to restart it in SQL user mode. We're going to try a number of ways to be able to set ourselves a local admin. Does this mean that your AD admins can get onto your SQL Server? Yes. Yes, it does. What do you need to be able to do this? You need to be local admin on the machine. So you need to be able to at least get onto the machine and use an account that is a local admin on that. But now, bingo, we have permission to be able to get onto this SQL Server. And if we copy this a moment and do ourselves a new query, and we'll just create ourselves a little query. There we go. You're going to be able to Google this. So your AD admins are going to be able to set themselves to be local admin on your SQL instances. They are going to be able to get onto your SQL instances. This is a risk, but it is a very useful thing as well. And hey, remember we said we can export our logins. We have a specific export DBA login that's going to tell us what accounts we have on our machine. So we can see that we've got the beard and we've got the password hashed and we've got the SID. So this is really useful for being able to recreate those SQL logins where we don't know the password. This is something good. But we can also put this into source control. We could automatically update it every night if we want to. In fact, Claudio's got a great blog post about how you can do that yourself. So you can export your logins, you can put them into a file, and there we go. We've got a file path and we can see what's happening. However, maybe perhaps you want to see what's actually happening. You got get DBA process. What's going on there? So not so easy to see on that screen. But if we put it into outgrid view and we have a look down here, you can see we've got some instances. Oh, hang on. Yep. So there's a bit of stuff going on here. Yeah, you can see all of the processes that are happening on this machine. Could filter them down. Maybe you want to filter for beard. I don't know why you do that. Perhaps you're worried that I'm on your machine. We could do open this one up, and you can see all of the things that have been. Oh, hang on, stolen things. Ooh, look, insert into play. Oh, hang on a minute. We better see what's been going on here. Maybe you've got a developer who likes to leave their transactions open, so you can get your DBA open transactions. You can see what's been happening on your machine. You can see that somebody's stealing the boss's password and putting it into a table. So this isn't very good. If you wondered how I did those little notifications, it's a thing called burnt toast, and it means that you can very quickly just create yourself some notifications like that, and ping up they come. So we can simulate things in demos, but actually the much more useful methods to be able to do that. Maybe when some script has finished running, you want a notification to pop up. Maybe you want some progress of what's happening. It's a really good module for enabling you to be able to do that. But anyway, what we want to do is we want to check the beard, and if we have a look, here we go. We can just do get process for all of those particular logins to see what's happening, and maybe we want to have a look in our trace files. So we can read our trace file, see what's been happening. Of course, only whilst SQL has been running, but we restarted it recently, so there wasn't very much going on. And if we go and have a look through, see in temp DB, what did we have? Somewhere in here. If we come down, we had some tables being created. There we go. There's some objects. So you can see what's been going on within your trace. It's a nice quick way of being able to filter through and see what's happening. Or scheme change history. Again, I'm using a jokey example to show you what's been happening here. So you can see that we've created a user table called place for stolen things. And again, that's coming from the trace. It's only going to be available whilst SQL has been running. Or if you like who is active, and who doesn't like who is active, you can install it as quickly as that. You can run it as simply as that. And what we have is all of your who is active information available to you as a PowerShell object that you can use as you will. Remember, with our objects, we can place them into the database nice and easily with write DBA data table, but we can also put them into an HTML file, CSV, into an Excel sheet, send them as an email, put them into Azure storage, whatever it is that you want to do. Your only limit is your imagination. But anyway, the boss said, I better get this one off. So if you've got a developer who likes to connect to production, I definitely recommend that you do not use this line of code to enable them to always be kicked off. But if we have a look, then you can see that they're no longer there. In fact, if we remember to remove the copy and paste error, you can use remove DBA login and you can get rid of them completely. There we go. So I've got 250 more lines going on here, but I am going to call it a day there. And I'm going to say, do we have any questions?
I think we've answered everything.
And there are my details up on the screen. Excellent. That's cool. If everything's been answered, that makes life really easy. But if you do have any questions in the future, please feel free to get in touch with me. If I don't get back to you, please feel free to remind me that you got in touch with me. And also, you can use Twitter and DBA Tools. You can go into the Slack channel on the SQL community. The link is down there at the bottom. And you'll find all of my information not on that page at all because it's not there. Let's go way back to.
The question that's come in a couple of times, Rob, is what folder again under GitHub are is all the information, the slide deck and the demo code?
Yes, certainly. Let's do that so everybody can see this. So if we go github.com/SQLDBA with a beard, then you'll find myself. And what you'll find here is our presentations repository. And once you open that, you can see everything that I've done for the last 3 years. In fact, 2016's got some older ones, but we're in 2018, so we'll go to 2018. Now, anything that's got DBA tools in it is pretty much going to be like this presentation. This particular presentation at this moment in time was this one, user groups, DBA tools. And there you will find the code that I've used to create it, the demos that I've done, zip file within, the pest tests that I use to check my environment, some of the other bits and bobs, and the PowerPoint. And just to show you that I do pest test everything, then you can see here that we use this to check, DBA tools to check that everything is as expected before I run my presentation, and that when I created my environment for doing this, I create it by, there we go, creating myself my network shares, jumping onto my Docker host and creating my containers, and then I use get DBA build reference to see which version of the container I'm connected to. And depending on which version, I use restore DBA database and pick up whichever versions of AdventureWorks are going to fit on that particular version and replace them. And all the rest of that is available to set up as well. So thank you very, very much for indulging me and letting me waffle on about DBA tools for more than an hour of your lunchtime, evening time, tea time, first thing in the morning, wherever you are in the world. And thank you very much for having me, Kenny.
Thank you very much, Rob. This was wonderful. I will get this recording uploaded to YouTube as soon as I get home this evening, and you can watch it over and over again, which I know I'm going to do. Thanks, everybody. Thanks again, Rob.
Take care.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.